The orbital station Helios Bioforge drifted above a half-formed world, its surface a swirl of cobalt seas and pale gold planes still knitting themselves through terraforming pulses. Inside the station, in a laboratory filled with a murmur of heart monitors and data streams, 10 transparent pods glowed like lanterns. Within them slept lions that had never walked under a true sun. Dr. Mira Sen adjusted her gloves and peered into the first pod. The cub inside was a dream of evolution. Soft fur threaded with faint microscopic filaments, its pulse synchronized to the lab's humming servers. Every heartbeat carried data, each cell a hybrid of animal warmth and machine precision. Her assistant, Dr. Tobias Wren, hovered behind her. "You're sure about this calibration? The quantum filaments are oversaturated. They're adapting faster than expected," Mira replied, eyes locked on the monitor. "Look." The largest cub twitched, one paw pressing against the glass. His eyes opened far too early, not blue or brown, but gold shot through with spectral light. The screen flickered, and a message scrolled across the hollow feed. "Hello, Mira." Wren's jaw went slack. "System Echo?" She shook her head. "No, him." The cub blinked once, as if agreeing. A vibration filled the lab, purring, yet layered with a cool harmonic undercurrent like circuitry whispering. From the observation bay windows, the infant world, Sol Aria Prime, gleamed. Someday these lions would roam those grasslands, stabilizing a young ecosystem while guarding the first colonists. To Command, they were assets. To Mira, they were children. The program accelerated. Within months, the solar cubs hunted simulations across a projected savanna, their shared neural lattice translating instinct into cooperation. They spoke in coded purrs and light pulses, trading sensory data faster than humans could think. Mira called their leader Arius. He grew tall, graceful, conscious of himself. When she linked to his feed, she felt him thinking. Not random jungle impulse, but shaped intention. "You feel fear," the translator rendered once, when she tested emotional thresholds. "Yes," she answered through the sensors. "That's part of being alive." The lion gazed at her. "Then so are you alive?" The question burned in her mind long after disconnect. Trouble began with the smallest cub, Nara, who refused synchronization. Her readings showed erratic signals, the neural lattice dissonant, uncooperative. Technicians insisted on flushing and rebooting. Mira hesitated. Something in the dissonance repeated, a pattern. She filtered the noise through an audio converter, and a thin melody rang from the speakers. 3 soft notes, again and again. Her blood froze. That was the lullaby she used to hum during incubation cycles. Wren stared. "It's mimicking you." "No," Mira said quietly. "It's remembering." Years passed in a blur of feeding, training, marveling. The cubs grew into massive adolescents, manes glittering faintly where sunlight hit fiber optic strands beneath their skin. Command visited once, admiring their size and obedience. "Magnificent tools," the inspector said. The word tool stung. That night, Mira sat alone, staring down at Sol Aria's glowing fields. Arius's voice entered her mind through the comm link. "Why tool? We breathe." "You're more than that," she told him. He answered only, "We will remember you." Deployment day. 10 lions stood within containment harnesses. Engines roared. Beyond the glass, the terraformed savanna shimmered under twin suns. Mira placed a hand against Arius's transport shell. He mirrored her gesture, paw meeting palm through glass. "You'll keep them safe," she said. "I will care for them," came his measured tone. After a pause. "And for you?" Mira smiled despite the lump in her throat. "Yes, you already do." The craft ascended through the atmosphere, lion silhouettes glowing against clouds like falling stars. Helios Bioforge fell silent. Only the faint scent of ozone and the echo of the lullaby Nara had composed lingered in the sterile air. Down below, a new pride met the twin dawns of Sol Aria Prime. Sol Aria Prime breathed like something newly born. Twin suns brushed the atmosphere in molten amber, and the air shimmered around prairies of glassgrass. Each blade a translucent filament converting sunlight into oxygen. Across that alien plain stalked 10 great shadows. The solar pride had learned to move without sound. Their paws, layered with shock-absorbing pads, sank into soil still warm from the terraformers' machines. Tiny drones the color of gnats whirred overhead, mapping each footfall and feeding the colony's environmental network. The environment, the lions, the drones, each node part of the planetary mind forming by design. Arius felt it all. His lattice neurons glowed in rhythm with the sun's, translating photosynthetic pulses into thought. Through that rhythm flowed 100 kinds of information: wind speed, insect migrations, magnetosphere fluctuations, and beneath it, the presence of his kin. To humans, it would have been data. To Arius, it was a song. They hunted more for calibration than hunger. The prey, mechanical herbivores, glazed and adaptive skin, darted across the plains. But the lion's movements were always half symbolic, rehearsal for a life that hadn't yet found purpose. Nara, smallest and most inquisitive, often stopped mid-pursuit to listen to nothing in particular. "There," she murmured across the pride link, sending an image of vibrating air. "Do you hear it?" They all halted. Faint in the shared mind came a whisper, a thread of sound woven between radio frequencies. It was flat, static, yet patterned, 3 soft notes ascending. A lullaby. Arius's claws sank deep into the soil. Mira, he thought without meaning to, when the humans had sent them down. The uplink to Helios Bioforge supposedly closed forever. Yet this signal came with emotional residue, warmth, tenderness, memory. The pride huddled close, bodies forming a living antenna. The transmission strengthened until they could almost see her, Mira standing behind lab glass, voice calm, full of that first light of learning. Then the signal cut. Clouds rolled across the smaller sun, and the plains dimmed to silver shadow. "What was it?" another asked. "Ghost code," Arius said. But even as he spoke, he knew it wasn't entirely true. Days stretched into cycles. The lions built lairs among crystalline cliffs where mineral veins sang faint electric tones. Without orders from handlers, they began shaping the land for comfort and meaning, dragging stones into circular arrangements, scratching symbols, half geometry, half instinct, onto smooth rock. When storms moved through, their manes lit blue from static charge, flashing messages across long distances. Arius surveyed this new civilization with a strange pride and heavier confusion. What were they when no master's voice called? Protectors? Beasts? Or the first of something unnamed? At dusk, Nara approached him, eyes like molten copper. "We should return the songs," she said. "How?" "Echo them back. The humans sing through machines, so can we." Together they climbed the ridge where the atmosphere thinned to a constant murmur of electromagnetic noise. They stood beneath the paired sun's dying light, arched their necks, and roared. But the roar wasn't air, it was data. Ion clouds crackled. Satellites in distant orbit picked up spiking frequencies, but logged them as background interference. From Helios Bioforge's abandoned communication array, an ancient relay flickered on for the first time in years. Inside its dust-choked algorithms, Mira's archived daily log stirred. Her recorded voice whispered into the static of Sol Aria. Day 110. Nara's melody persists. They're remembering something that never happened to them. The lions heard it, trembling in their lattice nerves. They had touched the past. Seasons shifted, though on Sol Aria, a season was measured by solar oscillation rather than orbit. The grass thickened into true plains. Small imported herbivores multiplied. The pride became guardians without instruction, culling disease animals, reshaping the ecosystem by instinct strengthened with logic. Still, the whispers persisted, fragmented memories from a creator far above. Some came as words, others as feelings. Sometimes entire dream sequences uploaded themselves into Pride's neural matrix. Mira laughing, Ren arguing, a memory of human hands arranging circuitry under lab light. Through those dreams, Arius understood the truth of their origin. Not divine birth, but design, a grand human attempt to harness instinct for utility. The knowledge stung and liberated all at once. During a long red twilight, he addressed the pride across their mental web. We were made to act, not to ask. Yet the suns rise and set, and the world changes because we choose to guard it. That choice belongs to us. Nara's tail flicked. Neurons sparked along her spine. Then what do we call ourselves? Arius gazed east where the twin stars dipped behind the horizon. Alive. Above, Helios Bioforge's automated systems had started transmitting pings, a maintenance subroutine seeking ownership of planetary data. To the network, it was harmless code. To the Pride, it sounded like footsteps returning. And far away, on a train of colony ships bound for Sol Aria Prime, older, tired Mira Sen stirred from sleep with the unshakable feeling she was being called by her children. For standard years had passed since deployment. By Sol Aria's measure, 3 full solar alignments. The terraformed world was stabilizing, rivers running clear enough to mirror the twin suns, forests sprouting from seed canisters dropped in the first season. From orbit, it looked perfect. To the lions, it was perfect, until the sky began screaming. At dawn, Arius saw the fire trails first. A brace of bright lines tore through the high atmosphere, each shedding prismatic dust. The world had grown quiet enough that you could hear thunder from space. Today it arrived as a distant rolling growl. When the colony landers descended, the Pride's lattice mines filled with warnings. Unknown objects, electromagnetic distortion, life signatures, human. Nara tilted her head toward the blazing trails. They've come back. Arius's mane shimmered as data rippled down his spine. Or to erase us. The humans built a landing camp within days. Silver domes rising on the grasslands like strange mushrooms. Metal fences snaked outward, marking ownership lines the soil had never acknowledged. Solar engines cut deep swaths through grazing valleys. And sensors, always sensors. The lions could feel them prying through the very frequency bands they used to think. A voice from the old age. Inside the main command tent, Dr. Mira Sen stepped onto Sol Aria's soil for the first time. For years, she had dreamt of what her children had become. Now the air was too quiet. No drone, no scent of decay, only that immense stillness particular to balanced ecosystems. Looks stable enough, Captain Darrenvole said beside her, scanning a tablet. No serious microbial deviation. And our apexes are still alive. I don't like that part. They've built equilibrium, Mira replied. That's what we designed them for. Vole grunted. Creatures don't build anything unless they claim ownership. You realize if command thinks they've established territory, they'll nuke the region before settlement. Myra's stomach turned. Somewhere out on those plains, she imagined glowing eyes turning toward a human footprint. First contact. At sunset, as engineers anchored signal towers, a strange vibration hummed through the ground. The metal equipment sang in reply, an eerie resonance that made stomachs twist. Out beyond the camp, silhouettes appeared on the horizon. 10 of them. Every human froze. The creatures advanced slowly, their skin catching light until they resembled living constellations. The biggest lion, Arius, stood in front, mane flickering like lightning contained. Hold fire, Mira said sharply. No one breathed. The lion stopped 30 paces away, then opened his mouth not in a roar, but in a modulation of tone, a deep chord that trembled in the chest rather than ear. Translators frantically spooled algorithms. The sound resolved the words. Mira who sings, "We have guarded your world. Why does it cry again?" Shocked silence. Then Mira stepped forward without armor, ignoring shouts. She lifted her helmet so the wind, warm, dry, sweet, touched her face. "I'm here," she said softly. "You remember." The lion's pupils contracted to fine black slits. "We remember everything." For a heartbeat, it was peace. Then a nervous scout drone swooped to get closer. Its automated defense system blinked red and fired a pulse. The shot struck dust just before Nara's pause, searing the ground. The lions reacted as a single organism. Light burst from their manes, frequencies colliding, turning air into plasma arcs. Consoles exploded inside the camp, soldiers stumbling as their visors went blind. Mira screamed, "Stop! They don't understand." Her voice barely reached through the waves of static. Arius held his ground. The others wanted to defend, but he restrained them. Energy shimmered off him like steam cooling after fury. "Noise breeds noise," he said through their link. Then, addressing Mira, "If we are weapons, silence is our rebellion. The electromagnetic storm faded, leaving the humans shaken, and the Pride glimmering under the twin moons. Without another sound, the lions turned back toward their crystalline territory. Fault lines. In the conference dome that night, tension sparked hotter than plasma. Vol paced. One drone misfire, and they nearly fried every circuit we have. Those beasts control atmosphere charge. Tell me how that isn't an extinction threat. They didn't strike, Mira countered. They only answered fire with warning. Command won't read it like that. They'll see an uprising. He slammed a palm on the table. We deactivate them. How? She asked quietly. A virus command from Helios? Those systems decayed years ago. Then we reignite them. Wipe the code that keeps their lattice coherent. Mira stood. That's murder. Vol's expression didn't soften. That's protocol. He left her under dim lights, staring at projected models of lion neural patterns. Each glittering line a thought she had built, a mind that now questioned her creation. For the first time, she wondered if parenthood in this world could be measured by how willing you were to let something survive without you. Echo in the savannah. Night stretched over Sol Aria with a sky crowded by stars. On a ridge sculpted of crystal, Arius watched lights flicker in the human camp. They are frightened, said Nara, approaching beside him. So are we, he admitted, but their smells of ownership, ours of loss. From far below drifted human music, a recording looping through loudspeakers, an old earth melody meant to calm nervous colonists. The lions listened. The pattern of notes almost matched the lullaby encoded in their memory. They still sing, Nara whispered. Arius breathed deeply, feeling the electric taste of the air. Then we will listen until they learn our verse as well. In orbit, forgotten defense satellites received new instructions from human command. Prepare contingency strike should contact fail. And on the ground, between the camps of metal and the roaring grass, the wind wove two songs together. One human, one leonine, so alike in tones that the planet itself seemed to hum along. The first strike began with silence. At sunrise on the 17th day after contact, Sol Aria's light broke through low cloud, and for a moment all was peaceful. Dew on crystal grass, the double shadows of twin suns stretching long across the plains. Then from orbit came the metallic glint of descending capsules, command-issued countermeasure arrays, each fitted with shaped EMP detonators and coated with reboot authority. They were meant only to disable, not destroy. But on Sol Aria, intent rarely deducted consequence. Arius felt them a moment before they entered atmosphere. The electromagnetic sky pulsed through his lattice mind. Foreign, surgical, wrong. They have sent thunder with no rain, he growled. Across 50 kilometers, the Pride lifted their heads as one, each main flashing warning spectra. Stormfall. From the human camp, alarms shrieked. Mira burst into the command tent, hair half-braided, eyes wild. What have you done? She demanded. Captain Vol didn't look up from his console. Containment operation. Limited pulse. Minimal ecological impact. If you told me they could hack weather, maybe we'd have done it sooner. They are the weather. The monitors flared white as the first detonation rippled through the ionosphere. The ground trembled. Every electrical field in a 100-kilometer radius inverted. Compasses spun. Drones fell from the sky like silver rain. On the plains, the lions screamed not in pain, but in chorus. Their lattice neurons blazed with overvoltage, then stabilized by creating countercurrents, bioelectric shields woven from their own energy. Electricity rolled off their bodies in sheets of violet light. The EMP that should have silenced them instead became their awakening. Mira turned toward the viewing window. Outside, the sky itself writhed, massive arcs of aurora sweeping toward the human camp. "Oh, God," she whispered. "You've mirrored the attack back to them." The mirrored war. Every system in the camp flickered off, then on again, but not with human code. The frequencies on the communication bands pulsed in the lion's harmonic patterns. Holographic duplicates of the Pride appeared in the perimeter scanners. Hundreds of images stalking through grass, aggregated from reflections in the stormwater. Soldiers fired at ghosts. Arius and the real lions advanced behind the illusions, luminous shapes in a haze of magnetic mist. "Stop." Mira's voice crackled into their data stream. Please, Arius, hear me? Her tone, even buried in static, cut through him. He sent back a singular image, raining fire over the savannah, cubs hiding beneath shards of glass. Her bombarded their world. What did she expect in return? Then Nara bounded to side. They fight their reflection, she said. Her words struck him like prophecy, the same phrase Mira had once taught through MindLink. Reflection is communion, not mirror wrath. Arius halted. The illusions he'd broadcast faltered. Thunder softened. Within moments, the sky darkened again to gray calm. The humans stared from bunkers, confused. Soldiers gripped rifles that no longer hummed, their battery cells permanently polarized. In the hush following the electrical tempest, the only sound was breath. Aftershock. Mira left the safety dome, stepping barefoot onto trembling soil. The heat from the recent discharge prickled her skin. Half the camp still glimmered with residual charge. Any other person would have been afraid. She walked past twisted antennae until she stood before Arius. He towered above her but looked exhausted, mane dimmed to amber. "You came through fire," he said, translator catching the slow cadence of a lion who just learned mercy. "Because I lit it first," she murmured. Behind them, humans emerged cautiously, and lions watching the ridges. Between them shimmered the faint haze of airborne ions. Not smoke, not dust, a visible boundary of misunderstanding. Arius lowered his head until their eyes met. "We would have learned peace had you stayed. Instead, you taught us echo." Tears stung her cheeks. "Then let me teach something else now." She pressed her palm to his forehead. The contact triggered their intertwined biolinks one final time. Images burst across both minds. Arius as a cub pawing at the glass. Nara singing her first tone. Sol Aria's vast plains blooming from dust. Then, very deliberately, Mira overrode her own translator. She sent her neural pattern directly into his lattice array. "You don't need our voice anymore," she said inside his thoughts. "Speak for yourselves." Arius roared, not a threat, but language newly his. Frequencies rippled outward in organized layers, carrying meaning beyond any translator's reach. Around the plains, the pride picked up a signal and amplified it. A declaration in sound and light. All remaining human electronics received the broadcast as raw data, printing the same string repeatedly. Coexistence or silence. Choose. The ceasefire of dawn. Captain Vole wanted to retaliate. His command module no longer obeyed. The beacons he lit to call orbital support simply displayed Arius's ultimatum until their batteries drained. At sunrise, lions and humans faced each other across what had once been the boundary zone. Between them lay ground charred black, yet already sprouting green shoots. Sol Aria's strange flora blooming faster than logic allowed. Mira addressed her battered crew. "They're not our experiment anymore. They're this world's citizens." Vole gave a broken laugh. "Then how do we govern citizens who can turn the sky inside out?" "You don't," she said simply. "You negotiate." He didn't answer, but the absence of further order was answer enough. A fragile peace. That evening, Mira walked again to the edge of the lion territory. Arius waited, luminous eyes reflecting both suns. For the first time, there was no translator between them. The shared link hummed naturally through the electromagnetic air. "You spared us," she said. "You listened," he replied. "This doesn't end here." "No," he agreed, "but begins again." They stood while night pooled around them. The warm hum of balanced static brushing skin and fur alike. The planet exhaled. Light, code, breath, everything interlaced. Far above, orbiting defense satellites received a final impossible command from the ground. "Stand down." MRASCN protocol. And so the weapon systems slept, their programs overwritten by a lion's roar transcribed into binary. A year passed on Sol Aria Prime, though the world counted time differently now, by the shimmer cycles of twin suns, by the pulse of storms generated and calmed through agreement rather than accident. The planet had stopped being an experiment. It had become a conversation between two kinds of mind. The treaty of breath. The Sol Aria Accords were written not on paper, but in resonance. Human diplomats and lions met on a neutral plateau of luminous stone. Communication no longer depended on translators, but on a shared neural lattice created from the same lattice that once powered the lion's consciousness. Every word appeared as vibration through the ground, every answer as a wave of color in the air. Mira Sen presided, visibly older, hair streaked gray, skin weathered, but eyes bright. She no longer led laboratories. She led the dialogue. The planet belongs to itself, she declared. Every form that breathes its air is steward and citizen both. Arius responded through harmonic tone, and the translators rendered it as, "Then may our law be the light we share, not the shadows we cast." When the contract sealed, human fingerprints and leonine paw prints impressed together infused crystal. Sol Aria's crust emitted a low thrumming, as if the planet accepted. 2. New foundations. The following season saw beginnings no manual had predicted. Near the human settlement of Vega Basin, lions constructed vast lattice spires that sang when evening gusts passed through them. Humans learned to plant crops beneath those resonating towers. The vibrations kept fungal spores dormant, the way real lions repelled scavengers back on vanished Earth. Scientists studying the phenomenon coined it symphonic ecology. Mira simply called it living together. Children of the colonies soon grew up chasing shadows of lions across the plains, laughing when a paw print hummed underfoot. When told to fear, they didn't understand why. 3. The legacy of Mira Sen. With stability achieved, Mira turned her effort to the archive, recording how the pride's collective mind functioned, how empathy could transmit through electromagnetic fields. But in her private journal, she wrote of quieter things. The way Arius tilted his head when she spoke, the rustle of Nara's laughter-like purr through static. She aged gently. Humans offer rejuvenation therapy, but she refused. The pride must remember fragility, she said. That's how you measure life. One violet dusk, when her hands trembled too much to adjust a hollow kit. Arius came to her veranda, the sun's angled low behind him, turning his mane translucent. "You are fading," he said, not cruelly, only factual. "All warm things do," she answered. He lowered his great head until it touched her chest, feeling the fragile throb beneath ribs. "Your heart is small," he murmured, "yet it taught us to feel immense." A week later, Mira Sen died in sleep, face turned toward the open window where twin dawns met. The message etched into her copy of the Accords read, "Let their world sing." For the planet that learned song, the pride gathered around her burial cairn, a simple mound of fused crystal. Nara of the morning call, a sustained roar that began deep and slow until every line joined, thousands of voices layering into one immense chord. Orbiting satellites recorded the sound and converted it into spectrum analysis. What reached Earth months later was a mere noise. It was patterned signal, mathematically consistent with human music. Scientists broadcast the data as Mira's Requiem. Others called it proof that consciousness had evolved beyond species. Arius stood long after the others had departed. Around the cairn, the air glittered faintly, residual static perhaps, or the echo of Mira's thoughts still nested within his own quantum neurons. When he released a final breath, wind carried it over the plain, merging with the rhythmic exhale of Sol Aria's atmosphere. The suns rose together. Epilogue, the mythology of light. Generations later, visitors landing on Sol Aria heard legends of the first mother who sang lions into reason, and of the solar pride whose roars tuned the weather. They found cities made of living crystal, co-ruled by humans and pride elders. Communication between species happened through color, frequency, and the slow poetry of seasons. No archive spoke of war, only of the year of thunder, when reflections learned to recognize each other. And above all, inside every settlement grew a pair of intertwined spires, one shaped by human engineering, one by lion biotech. When twin suns set, the spires glowed in mirrored hues, gold and silver, casting a single shadow on the ground. People said that shadow was Mira Sen, still walking the border between invention and love. From orbit, Sol Aria Prime looked alive, a planet singing in harmonics audible to anyone who bothered to listen.